This is the Summit League Podcast, an inside look at a league ascending in the world of college basketball, yet remaining one of its best-kept secrets. We'll showcase the league's men's and women's basketball stars on their journey to reach the summit and pursue the big dance. Now, here's your host of the Summit League Podcast, Matt Pocket.
All right, buckle up. Episode 2 of the Summit League Podcast drops right now at thesummitleague.org. I'm your host. Like the man said, Mark St. Angelo. I'm Matt Pocket. Thanks for hanging out with me. Hey, thanks everybody for making episode 1 a huge hit, because it looks like everybody loved episode 1, and I'm really happy about that. It was a big hit. People liked it, and for all of you who liked, you shared, you retweeted, whatever it was, thank you, because you helped make that episode a really big deal, and I'm just really happy that everybody enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun to put together. This one was a lot of fun to put together, too. We've got 5 more great guests lined up on deck, and we'll hit you with that starting 5 in just a couple of minutes, because first, something really important going on. It's the Summit League food fight, and it's going on now. Now, don't get your slingshots out. This isn't Animal House. There's not an actual food fight going on anywhere. There's no plans to fling delicious edible items at anybody or anything. No, don't do that. But you can help land a knockout blow against hunger in our Summit League communities. Now, over the last 9 years, we've raised nearly 600,000 pounds of food together. That's a lot of food. So we've made a huge impact with the Summit Food Fight in our local communities, helping to combat hunger in our areas. So what you need to do is bring non-perishable food items to donate at these games, or you can give online at yougivegoods.com. Search the Summit League and support your school. Our upcoming platter of games includes Thursday's North Dakota State at South Dakota State game, and then a real feast on the weekend. Saturday the 3rd in men's hoops, the Coyotes at North Dakota State, plus Oral Roberts hits the road at Western Illinois, and the women's game between the Bison and the Coyotes. Then on February 10th, a doubleheader with Fort Wayne at Omaha. Women's game and men's game. Go watch some top-shelf college basketball. Do us all a favor. Do yourselves a favor. Go watch these great games, because these are going to be big games in the league, and help fight hunger in our communities at the same time. Again, you can give online at yougivegoods.com. Search the Summit League and support your school, or come watch some great college basketball and support your school in the big Summit Food Fight going on now. Summit League Women's Player of the Week, former podcast guest Emily Clemens, who featured on episode 1 of the show, which is still available on this space here at thesummitleague.org. 8th Career Player of the Week award, and 3rd this year. She missed a trip dub, which would have been the 2nd of her career, in that barn burner, that record-setting three-point barrage with Denver, where both teams just blasted each other from downtown. 39 points, 13 assists, and 9 rebounds for Emily. That 39 points, by the way, new career high. 13 assists, tied her career mark. She followed that up with 8 points, 9 assists, and 3 steals in a win over North Dakota State, too. Now, on the men's side, the Summit League Player of the Week, Paul Miller, North Dakota State, earning his 2nd award of the season with 25 points, 7 boards, and 5 dimes in a win against Omaha. Then he scored 26 with 3 rebounds and 3 helpers against Western Illinois. He shot 60% from the floor and now has scored 20-plus in 9 straight games. All right. Let's get into it here in a moment. Remember, if you want to talk about the show, use the hashtag HearTheSummit on social media platforms. Follow the Summit, find the teams. They're all over social media, and they're all really fun to follow on social media. And who knows, there's a few fan forums around the league that I've been a member of in the past. I'm thinking about getting back on some of those and joining some of the game day threads here throughout the rest of the season, if I get some free time here with my own daily duties. Anyway, here on the podcast today, Maren Walseth, North Dakota State's women's basketball coach, Derrin Hansen, Omaha's men's head basketball coach, Faith Ihim, Oral Roberts women's basketball star, and Brandon Gilbeck, Western Illinois shot-blocking machine. But first, after the break, we'll sit down with Bryson Scott, the star player for the Fort Wayne Mastodons, the local guy who has been the single worst enemy of the Indiana Hoosiers in his college basketball career. Bryson Scott is next on the Summit League podcast.
In its fourth decade, the Summit League continues its ascent through excellence in the classroom and success in the field of play. In cities big and small, at public and private universities, students across league institutions reach for the Summit. From academic All-Americans to NCAA champions and nationally ranked teams, Summit League student athletes achieve the pinnacle of success. The Summit League, where tomorrow's leaders reach the summit today.
The march to the summit is on. Follow exciting Summit League men's and women's basketball action as teams race towards the championship and a trip to the big dance. Go to thesummitleague.org or follow on Twitter @SummitHoops to stay up to date all season long. Now, let's get back to Matt Pocket and the Summit League podcast.
All right, episode 2 of the Summit League podcast. We are underway, and now on the phone line, it's Bryson Scott of the Fort Wayne Mastodons. Bryson, welcome to the program, sir. Good to have you. How are you today?
I'm good. Nice talking to you.
Absolutely. Good to have you on, my friend. So you guys have been busy in your tenure at Fort Wayne, in particular beating up on Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back in time a little bit, but not all that far back. You and your brother are now a combined 6-0 against the Hoosiers, and you in particular, you've had some great games against them, even going back to your Purdue days. Being an Indiana guy, what's that like, being the Hoosier killer?
I mean, it's a good feeling for me, especially, I was a Purdue guy at first, and that rivalry. So, it's been good for me. It's been good for my brother as well, and it's kind of weird a little bit, but I love it, so it's good.
They were third in the country when you beat them in 2016. You had 18 points, 12 rebounds, 3 assists, and 3 steals. And then this year, you guys ran them out of the gym, and your brother Brenton, playing for Indiana State, beat them. He scored 24 points. So doing this against the in-state power, Bryson, is this something that you've always dreamed about since you were a little kid?
Yeah. It's something that I've always dreamed about. I always wanted to go to a big college and do well and have a lot of points, do a lot of things on the court and win. So it's that's been great for me, and it's been a dream come true. But just trying to stay hungry, really.
Bryson, what do you remember about the game against Indiana last year, and how did it compare to this season when you guys beat the brakes off them?
Last year it seemed like it was just like a lot of pressure, because we it was at home and they were number 3, and we wanted to make sure that we played well, and we did, and that was kind of last year. It was a lot more pressure on last year. This year it wasn't as much pressure. We just wanted to go out there and have fun, and we did, and it turned out that we had a good game, so, yeah.
Did you guys feel like the favorites coming into this year's game, considering what you did to them last year?
I don't know if felt like we were the favorites. I knew that we had a sense of confidence that we could beat them, and and that confidence paid off for us well. So thank God for that.
Bryson, you scored 26, and the Mastodons hit 17 threes in that game, which is just a ridiculous number in any game. We're seeing a lot of that around the league right now, too, especially on the women's side. Everybody seems to be hitting a ton of threes right now.
Yeah.
You are not just an Indiana guy, though. You're a Fort Wayne guy. You're playing not just in one of your home state colleges. You're playing at your hometown college. What led you to Fort Wayne originally, and the chance to come home and play?
Well, when I transferred from Purdue, I had some options, but none of them seemed to fit as well as Fort Wayne, and I just loved. I fell in love with Coach Kaufman, and fell in love with the coaching staff, Coach Sims and Coach Botts. They showed me a lot of love, so. It was only right for me to come back home. It was a little strange at first, my sit-out year, but it's been good for me, and it's been a blessing.
Transferring from Purdue, you've talked in the past about how that was a tough decision for you to make, But how do you feel about it now, looking back a couple of years at a younger you?
Yeah, it felt like a tough decision, but all in all, it was the right decision for me, and it's all paid off, and all my hard work seemed to kind of translate a little bit, and I'm just trying to finish out strong here at Fort Wayne.
Episode 2 of the Summit League podcast. It's Bryson Scott here on the show of the Fort Wayne Mastodons. Bryson, looking at yourself as a basketball player, what words would you use to best describe yourself on the court?
I would say a guy that's aggressive, strong, and fast. Those are the 3 words I would say. Aggressive, strong, and fast. Those are my strengths.
One of the words that came to mind for me when I watch you play is that you're a warrior. Do you think that kind of fits the bill?
Yeah. That's I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah.
I remember another guy in that program back when I was around the league as a play-by-play guy, Frank Gaines, who played at Fort Wayne. Mm-hmm. I remember watching him, and I thought he was one of the most underrated players in the league because he would go out there for Fort Wayne and he would score 20, 25 points every single night, and he had that resolve that he was not going to lose that game, and that even if they didn't come out on top on the scoreboard, he was going to hit you with everything that he had. Do you kind of feel that you're the next in line for that kind of mantle as that tough leader of the program?
Yeah, I do feel that. And I'm just trying to take that challenge and insert that into every game. So yeah, I do feel that. Yeah.
I remember other guys too who have been around this league: Reggie Hamilton, George Hill, Ben Woodside, Ceola Clark, Bryce Drew, guys that wouldn't stop coming at a defense even if you hit him with a 2x4. Where do you think you fit in with names like this in Summit League history?
Yeah, I feel like I fit right in with that. I feel like I'm a Frank Gaines, George Hill, all those guys. That's the type of game that I play. To the basket. Out in transition, getting in transition, can score the ball in different ways, getting to the free throw line. So, I feel comfortable with my name being around in that with those names. So, yeah.
What kind of experience did you pick up playing at Purdue and playing in some of those Big Ten gyms in your first couple of years in college?
You said what was some of my
what were some of your experiences in that program?
Oh, some of my experiences. I had a lot of experiences. Playing in a loud atmosphere. That was one of good experiences that I've had. And playing at Purdue, you have to be strong mentally, and being in the Big Ten, you got to be tough. So, those are some of the things that I took from Purdue, and I try to bring it here to Fort Wayne.
It's interesting because you've got places in the Summit League, too, that you walk into, and it's not all that dissimilar, I think, as an outsider looking in at times. Mm-hmm. South Dakota State, South Dakota, North Dakota State. Tough environments to go play in. Do you see those comparisons?
Yeah, I do see those comparisons, and there is a lot of similarities when you go to those places. So, yeah, you're right.
What's your favorite gym to go into and play first in the Summit League itself?
In the Summit League itself?
Yeah.
I would say probably North Dakota State. I like their gym, their new arena. So it's pretty nice. So
how about outside of the conference?
Outside of the conference, I would probably say IU.
Because you always win there.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
If you weren't a basketball player, but you played, I know the really tough question's coming now, but if you still played at the college level, but you weren't a basketball player, what sport do you think you'd get into, and why?
And why?
Yeah.
I would say probably football, just because, that was the other sport that I played growing up, and I felt like I was pretty good at it. The position, I'll probably be a running back, actually. I feel like I was a pretty good running back. So, I feel like I would be a football player just because, I still have a kind of a passion for it. I still, watch it and see what's going on with it. So,
who's your favorite team?
Don't really have a favorite team, but I watch guys like Odell Beckham. Those guys are exciting to watch. The wide receivers, fancy guys. So those are guys that are exciting to watch.
As a running back, were you more of a between the tackles kind of guy, or did you like to get out into space and catch passes and beat guys one-on-one?
Yeah, I was kind of like a slot. Yeah, like a guy, get out in space and try to get out to the sideline and try to head downfield and try to juke and all that other stuff. So that was the type of guy that I was.
Do you think that really helped prepare you for the type of basketball player that you are, a tough guy who likes to go to the rim?
Yeah, and I feel like that's prepared me a lot growing up, and it made me be tough and actually helped me, find different angles to the basket. You had to find different angles on the field, or, cut up field. You find different angles to try to get to the basket. So, yeah, it definitely helped.
Bryson, what do you want to do outside of basketball as an off-the-court guy, I guess?
There's a lot. I just want to be, a servant for the people. I just want to, help people. My father, he's an entrepreneur, and he owns his own car lot. So that's kind of where I feel like I would do good at, trying to sell cars, trying to help people get into cars, and just try to help people. So that's what I would like to do. Yeah.
Sure. What kind of things do you think that Bryson Scott, the basketball player, what attributes do you have on the court that impact you off the court? And then how do you think that helps you get through whatever it is that you put your mind to?
Some of the things that help me, I would say, just being a warrior, like you said. I feel like, you got to be a warrior in life, too. There's going to be, a lot of ups and downs. So, you got to be able to, fight and fight through adversity and, stay strong and, keep looking forward, and that's kind of what I would take from the basketball court and apply to my off the court life. So, yeah.
Bryson Scott, Fort Wayne Mastodons here on the Summit League podcast. Bryson, what's your favorite sports memory outside of college basketball?
My favorite sports memory?
Tough questions.
Yeah.
I mean, we're really going deep here.
Yeah. I would say, man, I have a lot of memories. I would say I hit a game winning like a half court shot back when I was like in middle school AAU. I hit a half court shot for the game. So yeah, I would say that would probably that's what comes to mind when you ask that question. So.
Do you have a favorite professional athlete? I know you mentioned Odell Beckham a minute ago, but anybody else up there?
I love LeBron James. That's my favorite player of all time. It's LeBron James. That's my idol.
Followed him from the Cavs to the Heat and then back to the Cavs, right?
Yeah.
You're from Fort Wayne, Indiana. So playing in your hometown, you know all the places to go around town. First off, what's your favorite place to go eat?
My favorite place to go eat?
Yeah.
I keep it simple. I'd go to like a Texas Roadhouse or a steakhouse somewhere. I like to eat. I like to eat steaks and chicken. And just somewhere, something like that.
Where do you like to hang out around town when you got some downtime?
Downtime, I'll just go over to a friend's house, try to play on a game, play 2K, play FIFA. Just play video games, hang out.
Favorite local sports to go watch?
Favorite local sport?
Yeah. There's a lot of sports in Fort Wayne. I mean, the Mad Ants have a really good team, and the Comets have had a good hockey team for years, too.
I used to go to hockey games when I was real young with my grandpa, actually, the hockey games. But I would say I would probably say the Mad Ants. I haven't been able to go out there to them this year, but I've been to a couple of their games. It's pretty exciting.
Bryson Scott, Fort Wayne native and star point guard for the Fort Wayne Mastodons here on the Summit League podcast. What's changed in Fort Wayne since you were a kid?
What changed in Fort Wayne? I would say it just grew as a city. It's they're doing a lot of new things, bringing with the Tin Caps. They used to be the Wizards when I was real young, but now they're they're 10 caps. That's changed, and that's downtown, so it's real nice. I can't think of anything really besides that.
What kind of so it's mostly stayed the same then in a lot of ways.
Yeah, a lot of ways it stayed the same. Yeah.
What's it like playing in the Coliseum? That's a building with a ton of history in it.
Yeah. It's exciting. I love playing in the Coliseum. Some of the teammates they rather play here at the school at IPFW or Fort Wayne, I should say. But I love playing in the Coliseum. It's nice, and the court's nice. I love it.
Bryson Scott up next, a pair of home games for the Mastodons. You get Oral Roberts coming in and Denver, too. Two teams that are built a bit differently that you get over the weekend, including a Denver team that's really hot right now. They just blitzed South Dakota a couple of days ago. How do you feel about those games?
I feel confident. I feel confident that we're going to pull both of those games out. We kind of hit a little struggle a little bit in our first round of Summit games. But I feel confident. I'm confident in the team, and just excited and ready to get this second half of this Summit League going.
All right, my friend Bryson Scott here on the Summit League podcast. Hey, it was good catching up with you, my friend, and we got to play some FIFA sometime because that's which team do you play as, or do you go with Ultimate Team?
I go with Manchester United. I go with any team, really. Any team.
I will say this. I used to be a Manchester United guy. I'm now a Bournemouth guy, the small little club. But Zlatan Ibrahimovic and Romelu Lukaku. Yep.
Those good players right there.
I bet you score like 9 goals a game with those guys too.
Yeah, I could.
Bryson Scott, thanks for stopping by, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, we've got plenty more to come. Maren Walseth, the head coach of the North Dakota State Bison women's basketball team, joins us next here on the Summit League podcast.
The madness returns to Sioux Falls with the 2018 Summit League Basketball Championships. See one of the nation's top college basketball tournaments March 3rd through the 6th at the Denny Sanford Premier Center. Tickets are on sale now at any Ticketmaster outlet. All session tickets starting at less than $10 per game. Support your team and find out who will punch their ticket to the big dance. Go to thesummitleague.org/tickets and claim your seats today. Brought to you by the generosity of our sponsors and the Sioux Falls Sports Authority.
Get the latest news on all 19 Summit League sports at thesummitleague.org. Watch championships, access the Leads ESPN3 events, view up-to-date standings, statistics, and more, all at the home for Summit League athletics. Follow the league's social media pages on Twitter at The Summit League and on Facebook and Instagram at /The Summit League. Now, let's get back to Matt Pocket and the Summit League podcast.
All right, welcome back as the show continues to roll on. It's another fantastic Wednesday to be with you all on the Summit League podcast. Joining me now on the phone lines, it is the head coach of the North Dakota State women's basketball team. It's Maren Walseth on the Summit League podcast. Maren, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Thanks, Matt.
Good to have you here. And this team for North Dakota State, you played a lot of road games in January, just 2 home games, but 5 of your final 6 are going to be in Fargo. Now, I don't know a whole lot of people who love being on the road all that much, but the perk is that you get all these home games on the back end of the schedule. Do you like how that's worked out with all these home games leading into the Summit League tournament?
You know, as a coach, you never want to talk too much about the negatives. And so we really haven't spoken much with our team about the journey that we've been on this last month, but it has been challenging. And I think from the perspective of young people who like routine, we are all creatures of habit in some way, shape, or form. I think our routine has been less consistent because of the travel schedule. Certainly nothing we can do about that. But as you mentioned, looking down the pike in February, leading into the Summit League tournament, knowing that we are going to be in the confines of the shack and our own beds and our own daily routines that we're very accustomed to, there's a smile on this coach's face, and I know our staff as well, knowing that we do have more home games here in the month of February.
Yeah, it's always the trade-off. You have to be on the road for a long time, but then conversely, you get all these home games at the end of the season to build that routine. This is a young team, too. 4 freshmen, 6 sophomores. When you see this group's progression, Do you see this group make small steps consistently, regularly, or do you see massive jumps all at one time in their development?
You hit the nail right on the head there. We are extremely young, which possesses a lot of energy and a lot of enthusiasm, but also a lot of patience needed by all people involved. I think to directly answer your question, we've seen small incremental growth every single day. And after a week, after a month, you've made a substantial step forward. And so that's kind of what we talk about, is just getting a little bit better each and every day and thinking small rather than thinking big. Because when you do have a young squad, thinking too big can be overwhelming. And so we've done a good job of just talking about, what can we get better at in these two practices before, this next game or by the end of the week. And then also showing film. Hey, 2 weeks ago you weren't scrambling like that, or you didn't have that defensive intensity. Look at the progress that you've made over a short period of time. So we're definitely focusing on the small and the smaller increments.
Maren, do you think it's a good thing to be challenged as a young team, or do you like to see them be eased into the college game a little bit more?
Well, the last 2 years we've been about ease. We've thrown young kids into the fire and helped them learn and grow through the process, whether that's a positive experience or certainly some challenging experiences as well. I don't know exactly what you want in that scenario, but you work with what you're given. And we have a lot of young kids. Last year we started 3 freshmen. This year we started at times freshmen as well, and some sophomores. So it's helping them learn through the moment and understand that there are small victories and there are small increments that they are making in a very, very positive way, and helping them see that, because I think we're all our own worst critics or our own worst enemies in trying to focus, or not maybe trying to, unconsciously focusing on the negatives and overlooking some of the real strengths and the real positives that these young kids are making and are adding to our games and to our program.
Maren, you're a really young team, particularly at forward, as Fernandez and Thunstead are both guards. How does development for younger forwards differ from the progression in guards?
That's a great question, and something we've been able to reflect upon a lot last year. Or this year from last year, when we started 3 guards that were freshmen, and our ability to control the ball, our ability to pass to each other, was very challenging for us last year. But with 2 interior post players who were seniors, we were one of the better teams in the league rebounding. And now you flip the script a little bit, and our assists are off the charts. Our assist to turnover ratio overall has been great. The percentage of made field goals that have been assisted this year is fantastic for us. And that's because our sophomores are guards. Our guards are sophomores and getting a little bit stronger. Now, the flip side of that is when you lose 2 seniors on the interior, the rebounding by committee is kind of what it's turned into be, because of our youth and because of the physicality and just the speed of the game and the constant engagement necessary. But I like what I see, in our young forwards. I think Riley Jacobson is doing a great job as a sophomore, picking up and really pushing herself. The conversations I've had with her, she kind of wrinkles her nose when she looks at her rebounding, and she thinks she can do more and she thinks she can be better there. And, I like that energy and I like that eagerness from her. And then her 3 freshman post friends down there, they're working hard. Macy Quilvang is doing a great job coming off the bench. I'm seeing a bit more confidence from her, a bit more energy, holding her head a little bit higher. I really think her defensive ability to block shots in the last 4 or 5 games has taken off, when we kind of gave her the ability to be that volleyball player that you were in high school and, smack some of these around. She kind of, her eyes lit up like, oh, I can do that? Yeah, Macy can do that. And so seeing her blocks, increase, so like you mentioned, it's just a different set of growing pains, so to speak, or a different area that is demonstrating our youth. But collectively, they support each other very, very well. They're in it for each other, which is fun to go to practice every day knowing that.
Jacobson's had a couple of cold stretches this season, but mostly it's been long stretches of hot play. Do you see her as one of the dominant powers in the league going forward?
Well, we've got 2 Jacobsons. So you're
Riley
talking about
Jacobson,
Big Jacobson,
yes.
Riley Jacobson. Yeah, unfortunately for her season got off to a little bit of a shaky start just from dealing with mono and whatnot. But I think she is one that I've been very impressed with, her dedication, her intensity, her eagerness, and there's a couple games there where foul trouble maybe put her back a half a step, but I've been very pleased with her and her progression, kind of coming into her own, understanding the pace that she plays great at, which is a fast pace, but it also involves taking a breath and evaluating. And so I'm seeing her game, our staff is seeing her game really grow and develop and mature as our season is progressing.
Maren Walseth, North Dakota State. Geislerova has been a really good player in the international youth levels for the Czech Republic. She had a good showing, too, at the 2017 FIBA U20 Euros. What are some of the adjustments playing at that level versus the NCAA level, and what do you think about that experience playing into that player's development?
Michelle has a great understanding of personal confidence in her game, and that is a direct reflection from her international experience. She came in very confident shooting the basketball, very coachable and understanding that we are going to help her game develop kind of bit by bit or piece by piece. And I think what you're seeing now is a young lady who is attacking the basket, who's using her dribble pull-up, who wants the basketball in her hand a bit more. Right when she arrived at the beginning of her freshman year, she was pretty much a catch-and-shoot only kid. And so you're seeing that growth and you're seeing that confidence just come through with more reps and more experiences with her teammates. But it is all rooted back in her experiences on the international scene at a younger age that really gives her confidence in what she's able to do and what her abilities are and how she can positively impact our team.
I think another big confidence builder for a program is the ability to go out and play for trophies during the regular season. You've made a point of scheduling tournaments in the non-conference schedule. This year, the Navy Classic, the FIU Holiday Classic. What do you like about booking those showcases?
Yeah, there's a lot to be said about a non-conference season, and you're trying to prepare your team for conference play, whether that's quality of opponents, styles of play, or even formats. Going into the Summit League tournament, there's a potential to play back-to-back games there, and so you put yourself in those situations in non-conference tournaments as well. But it's the overall feel and the overall summary of your non-conference, which really is designed, at least at our institution, to prepare us and help us in what we will face in the conference season.
You had a lot of postseason experience as a player yourself. You excelled at Penn State, led the Nittany Lions to the Final Four, and then coached there for several years before moving on to North Dakota State. What was it like going to the Final Four as a player?
That was a long time ago, to be honest with you. But when you think back and you think back on your college experiences, certainly playing in the Final Four in one of the not a national championship game, but in a semifinal there, the pinnacle of your playing career and what you can accomplish, it's pretty neat, and it's not so much about the actual games, but the people that you spend your time with, the memories that you make, the silly things you do, the tough things that happen while you're there. But it's those friendships that really carry through. And I feel very fortunate to have played at the highest level. And
then going back and coaching for your alma mater, what's that experience like?
It's surreal. It was a very special situation for me. Kind of fell into my lap, so to speak. I am very appreciative to Coach Washington for giving me that opportunity and then being such a fantastic mentor for many years. And I think in some respects we really helped each other out. She was helping me grow as a young coach, and I was helping her piece together the pieces of Penn State and the history and whatnot. And so I think we worked very, very well together. But it was definitely fun to be on the other side and to experience some success back at my alma mater.
Drafted in the third round of the WNBA draft in 2001 by the Sacramento Monarchs, and the WNBA has undergone a lot of changes over the years. What was it like playing in the WNBA back then, and then how do you think the league has changed over time, looking as an outsider looking in now?
Again, you're going back some years. And some
We're reaching back for history here, yeah.
I have to pull from my memory bank, but honestly, my first my first reaction to the question is how has it changed is, sitting in front of the computer screen watching yourself get drafted or it being on national television. That's a huge difference and something that I think is fantastic for the growth of our game. The number of games that are on ESPN or ESPN3, the WNBA season-long package that folks can purchase for a relatively reasonable dollar amount. I think that's great for the growth of women's basketball. As a young player, growing up, I thought it'd be awesome to play overseas. Not really sure that the WNBA, was going to be around when I was, in elementary, middle school. And for it to take place and to be a part of that, even for a short amount of time, is something that, I think back very positively, again, on my experiences, the people I played with, the places we got to go. But it's also fun watching your current players, the people that you coach, that you mentored, whether it's play in the WNBA or play overseas and have some of those experiences, continuing to watch young people live out their dreams, playing basketball, similar to how I was able to do it for a short amount of time, puts a smile on my face as a coach.
I think seeing the growth of women's basketball internationally and domestically here in the United States, it's been a tremendous thing to watch over the last several years. You've made a point of being involved in helping young women grow in life through the game of basketball. What are some of the programs that you're involved in locally, Maren, and how does that tie into the continued growth of the game?
Sure. I really feel that people open the door for me to have a wonderful collegiate and professional experience, and I've always felt it's been my responsibility to give back and to open those doors and hopefully more doors for young people. So whether it's the National Girl and Women in Sports Day that we'll be participating in here on Thursday, the Pink Games across the country, that was an initiative that was ironically started at Penn State and has grown tremendously there and across the country. And we're going to be able to do some additional things with our Pink Game here at NDSU. But also getting our young people involved in our local community. We had some young ladies go out this morning and do some reading at a couple of local elementary schools, whether it's that or participating in the food bank, being able to be out in the community and be visible for these young kids, I think is so important. But the flip side of that is also the responsibility and how you carry yourself as an NDSU student athlete and a part of the women's basketball team, understanding that people are looking up to you and how do you carry yourself and who do you meet in the process and where do some of those relationships, grow and blossom and what doors can be opened because of some of the community interactions that we take part in. It's just open, to me, it's just opening their eyes to the bigger picture and whatever role I can play in that is important to me and hopefully I can encourage our players to think big.
Maren Walseth, North Dakota State's head coach. A three-part question for you here. It's sort of a past, present, future type. How do you assess opportunities for women in sports currently? How's that, again, kind of changed over the years, and where do you think it's going from here?
Wow, that's a great question. I feel very fortunate to be in women's basketball and to be in the growth of women's basketball. I certainly understand there were a lot of women who have put in a lot of time, a lot of sacrifices to allow women to play Division I basketball on scholarships, to play in a facility like we have on national television or on ESPN3. Those take years and years and years of work by many people to provide those opportunities for myself and for our current players. And then when you think of kind of where things are now, the number of women who are graduating and pursuing CEO and C-suite jobs because of their experiences with athletics, I think is so important to see that the confidence, the challenges, the teamwork, the adversity, the things that you face as a student athlete are a direct positive correlation to how you can be successful and work with others and really push an organization from the top to be better. And so I think that's the next phase or a newer phase as so many young women are graduating, getting secondary degrees, things like that because of sport. And then where is it going to be in the future? I'm very optimistic. I see our game continuing to grow. I see more women getting into coaching to continue to provide opportunities. With the WNBA constantly looking to find how it can be its best. I think at times the WNBA can be scrutinized for maybe not being as stable or changing cities or coaches, things of that nature. Well, the NBA wasn't the financial, didn't have the financial stability that they had in year 25 or 26 either. But seeing that the creativity and the innovation that the WNBA has to put a team in Vegas, to, try different things, to continue to find their niche, I think, speaks to the problem solvers and speaks to the future of that league. But then the continued opportunities overseas. We've got two young ladies from the NDSU program who are currently playing overseas. Marina Whittle just completed a championship season in Australia, and Brooke Lamar is also over in Europe, and that season's still going on. So, seeing the growth and the opportunities, 15 years ago, you needed a BCS stat line to get some of those contracts and to be in some of those leagues. And now, because of media exposure and because of just current, former players playing before current players, following in the footsteps of former players who are making some of those connections. I think the growth of our game is very, very healthy and going in a very positive direction. And it's encouraging to me.
I think one of the biggest things about the WNBA is that it's had the backing of the NBA too, and even through some of the instabilities in terms of teams and coaches and maybe ownership groups, you've also had the backing of a big organization as a whole that's got a lot of money behind it and a lot of pull behind it that says, no, we're committed to this game growing for women. And I think that's been a big thing to have, again, stable backing at its core.
Absolutely. It takes a partnership, and that partnership can be with the NBA. It can be with other private investors that some of the teams, because of their ownership, are experiencing. And in some respects, we might be a little bit in a jaded community up here in Fargo with our closest WNBA team being the Minnesota Lynx and their success, and Coach Cheryl Reeves and how such a fantastic job that she's done with her team, but also being a spokesperson and being a proponent for the league and for women's sports or women's basketball. It's fun being able to get down to those games in the summer. I know some of our players watch FIBA and Eurobasket, and others, are very into the WNBA and specifically the Lynx. So it's a good partnership that they have, that the Lynx and the Timberwolves have, and it's fun to kind of watch it all unfold and be a part of the fan base, if not be part of the organization.
All right, during the recording of this interview with Maren Walseth of North Dakota State, we ran into a bit of a technical issue here in the studio, so we wound up having to go to a backup feed for the final question of the interview with North Dakota State women's basketball head coach Maren Walseth. Maren Walseth, North Dakota State's head coach. Maren, you stay in the Dakotas this week with two really good teams, South Dakota State at home and then league-leading South Dakota on the road. Two teams the Bison struggled against right as the calendar flipped to 2018, but now you get them for the next go-around. What changes between the first time you played these two teams and now?
I think we had our really positive moments in both games, with the exception of, a stretch. And I feel basketball is a game of runs, and whether that run, versus USD was right off the bat, or the run versus SDSU was at the beginning of the third quarter. There are smaller increments that certainly are teachable learning moments through film and through practice that have been and will continue to be addressed. But I was very pleased with the mentality and the urgency that we went down to Frost Arena to play SDSU. I'm looking to make a few adjustments and a few enhancements to our defense for them on Thursday, and I am going in very, very confident with that. And then going down to Vermillion for Saturday, I thought our defense was decent the first go around, but it was our offense and our inability to take care of the basketball and really value the basketball that gave them more possessions. So in both cases, I see in situations that can be turned around and through practice and film. And excited for this weekend as we go through everything for the second time now.
Yeah, it's going to be a couple of big games there we'll be watching. Maren Walseth, North Dakota State's women's basketball coach. Thanks for the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Matt.
All right, that was Maren Walseth, the head coach of North Dakota State, here on the Summit League podcast. On the way It is Derrin Hansen, the head coach of the Omaha Mavericks men's basketball team. Derrin's next on the Summit League podcast.
In its fourth decade, the Summit League continues its ascent through excellence in the classroom and success in the field of play. In cities big and small, at public and private universities, students across league institutions reach for the summit. From academic All-Americans to NCAA champions and nationally ranked teams, Summit League student-athletes achieve the pinnacle of success. The Summit League, where tomorrow's leaders reach the summit today.
The Summit League Basketball Championships celebrate their 10th season in Sioux Falls, March 3rd through the 6th. Be part of one of the nation's premier college basketball tournaments by ordering tickets today. Visit thesummitleague.org/tickets for more details and reserve your seat to witness the march to the summit. Now, let's get back to Matt Pocket and the Summit League podcast.
All right, welcome back. And now joining us on the phone line, it's the head coach of the Omaha Mavericks, Derrin Hansen, here on the Summit League podcast. Derrin, welcome to the program. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So by the time that this will air, this airs on Wednesday, we're sitting here in the studio chatting on Monday. You'll have a game against South Dakota State in between, but then you've got a lot of time off in between games, Derrin. What's that feel like coming up? It's over a week off.
Yeah, Matt, it's funny because we haven't had much time off this year. We played first semester and had a lot of games, and it kind of came out as fast and furious, and we played in the multi-team event, which adds a few games. So we've really played a lot of games this year without a lot of prep, and we've played a lot of games this year without a lot of practice time in between. So our team has kind of gotten used to that. So now that we play tomorrow, we don't play for another 9 days. We have to figure some things out on a day off here, a day off there, and get our guys acclimated, but keep them going a little bit so we can be ready to play the following Thursday.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later on here in our chat, but it was just a ridiculous stretch where you guys were on the road for, it seemed like about 2 whole months there. This season, recently, you reached 200 career wins, though, in your Mavericks coaching career. You're a Nebraska guy. You're a big Nebraska guy. What's that mean to you, being able to do that in your home state?
Well, it means a lot, and but it goes back to you're just so thankful for everything and for the people that have been in your life, whether it's your parents or your family, your mentors, the people you've coached with. But then when it comes to our campus here, the administrators who have had, but the people I've been able to work with, my assistant coaches, of course, the players, and that's what's really special to me is to be able to share that with all of those people because you can't do anything by yourself. You have to have help with everything. And to be a small part of 200 wins here at University of Nebraska-Omaha means a lot to me. And
it's not just that it's 200 wins. There's been a lot of stuff that's happened along the way, including the move from Division II up to Division I. What were the expectations on the program when you did make that move?
Well, number one, we decided it was best for our department, for our institution to go to Division I, to put our athletic department at that level. And I think that was an important move for us. The expectations were, I think we wanted to be more visible as an athletic department, not only in our community, but also in our state, and not only in our state, but maybe regionally. And then, of course, for the hockey team being able to make a Frozen Four, I think it's important that, you can put Omaha at a national level as well. So when it comes to men's basketball, I have to give our administration a lot of credit. You talk about budgets and being able to recruit and being able to schedule and being able to hire staff. Well, we didn't start at the bottom. They kind of put us in the middle of the league right away when it comes to budgets. And I think that was important, and those are our expectations. We want to finish, towards the top of the league. We want to be, last year we were fortunate to play in the championship game. We want to do that every few years, and that gives you an opportunity to be on a national stage. So those were some, I think, of the expectations coming in, but it was a real important move for our institution, but I think it was also a real important move for our men's basketball program.
Derrin Hansen, head coach of the Omaha Mavericks, your first year postseason eligible. You go to the CBI. The next year, you're a possession from the NCAA tournament. Is this where you expected the program to be so soon?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I guess I wasn't sure, because we have a great staff here, whether it's within our athletic department or my assistant coaches or our support staff. So we've been put in a position to play in those tournaments. And it's hard when you're going through the transition. We got to play in the CIT. We also got to play in the CBI. In 2 of our first 3 years. That was important for us to at least prove to ourselves, prove to our community, and prove to the region that we could at least compete at this Division I level and yet make a postseason tournament. So then when we get to the finals last year, I think it proved to some people that we were one basket away from that NCAA tournament, or one turnover away, or one more rebound away from the tournament that, let's be honest, everybody wants to play. And if you grew up wanting to play Division I basketball or coach in Division I basketball, that's where you want to go. And that's where you want to be, and we're competitive people as coaches and as players. So that's where we want to go, that's where we want to be, and that's where we want to continue to maintain to give ourselves opportunities to play in those tournaments and have a chance to play in the NCAA tournament.
This league's got a history of teams doing that, too, because North Dakota State did it my freshman year of college, and that was such a tremendous moment with Ben Woodside hitting that shot. Still, the years in between the move from Division II into Division I, you spend a transition year as an independent, then you're postseason ineligible for a couple of seasons automatically. That's just the way that it works. And I've heard that called the wilderness years in a lot of programs, because it really is. You're wandering through the wilderness. It doesn't matter how good you are. You could beat everybody that you play and be the number one ranked team in the country. You're not playing in the postseason. What's that time like for a program?
Well, it's hard. That first year in that transition, really we played like 29 almost exhibition games because none of them counted. We weren't even a counter for anybody, so it's very hard to schedule. And then,
really?
Then it's 4 years. There's 4 years before you become eligible, and that's a whole recruiting cycle. Over 4 years, when coaches get jobs, they're trying to build their team and their program over those 4 years. Well, those are 4 years that you're there, and you can't even play in the NCAA tournament. So, number one, that's hard to recruit to. It's hard to schedule with. And it's hard when people are saying that about you, and all of it is true. It's not like anybody's badmouthing your program, because you are not eligible for the NCAA tournament, and that's where players want to go. And we're all trying to get the same players to achieve the same goals. But I go back to our administration, our assistant coaches worked extremely hard to put us in position to have winning records. We were winning some awards, whether it was points scored or possessions per game, and we had a young man by the name of Tradeon Hollins who, led the nation in steals for 2 years. We were able to get on the map in certain ways to keep attracting student athletes that I think can keep us at a good level here for a solid or for a decent amount of time.
Since the move to Division I, which wasn't all that long ago, you've had a ridiculously high number of guys go pro. 8 players have gone on to play professional at some level, including Tradeon Hollins, who was picked by the Fort Wayne Mad Ants to the G League. How have you had so much success placing these guys into professional basketball, whether it's here or overseas, in that time frame?
Yeah, well, what I think is really important is when you're going through that transition, you maybe don't always get the guy that your whole league is recruiting, and because you're still going through that transition. So someone else is going to get the one that everybody wants. What I feel that my staff was very good at was they could pinpoint some guys who could be good in our league, who could be good in our system, who are good system guys and team guys that we can bring in and then we can develop. And I think what happened is when you bring in a Marcus Tyus, or you bring in a Mike Ross-Dampour, or you bring in a Tradeon Hollins, you bring in a Randy Reed, you bring in those kinds of guys. Not that they're recruited very highly at our level, but they came in and they worked at it. My staff did a tremendous job developing those guys. Those guys did a tremendous job of buying in of what we're selling and what we think that they can do for our program, what we can do for them, and what they can do moving forward. And I think they've gotten some right fits, whether it be overseas, whether it be Tradeon in the G League. They've found spots where they can be successful, where teams see their need, and then go from there. And then they have to kind of take it from there. So we're very proud of those guys. But they've come in, bought into what we've done, worked extremely hard. I think my staff has done a good job of developing guys that maybe aren't overly recruited, or maybe they're overlooked.
And there's a number of those guys who have won championships playing in overseas leagues, too. Derrin Hansen, the head coach of the Omaha Mavericks, onto this year's team where, again, you've got a ton of guys who are very talented basketball players, hardworking guys. Tons of guys who have played in state championship games in high school. Io Akinwole, JT Gibson, Matt Pyle, all players of the year in their states in high school. They're all first-rate students. They're all beasts on the court, and they're all young, with Gibson, the sophomore, as the oldest one. How are you pulling all this talent together, all these state players of the year caliber players, all into one program?
Well, it kind of goes back a little bit to some of the people we just talked about, whether it be Marcus or Mike or Tradeon. When we're going through the transition, we're showing the kids the success that we're having in recruiting kids without even being able to play in the NCAA tournament yet at that point. So what we're telling kids is, hey, if we can get this now, think about what our future can hold. And to be able to get a guy like Isle from right here in our state Player of the Year, to be able to just go just south and get Matt Pyle, to go up north and to get J.T. Gibson, from Minneapolis. Mitch Hahn, who's a junior on our team, he's a fourth-year junior, but he was a Gatorade Player of the Year 4 years ago here in the state. So to be able to get those guys means a lot to us. It means that we have a really good place to sell. I love our athletic department. I love our basketball program. I love our campus. I love the people on our campus. I love our community. You take all of that, we have a really good thing to sell here. But what you need is your staff, your support staff, people on campus, everybody, your administration here, everybody doing the same thing together, rowing the boat the same direction and all that stuff to be able to sell that. So I think we have a great place to sell, and I think we have good people selling it, and that has attracted the quality student-athletes that we have here today.
I think another selling point that you've used is that you're going to go play in big gyms. You're going to go play in big environments. Washington, Oklahoma, TCU, those kinds of programs. How do you rate that as a learning experience for a young team like this?
Well, what I think is important is we've never shied away from those things, and the best thing about that is our administration, and Chuck Roberts is our director of athletics, and he's encouraged us to go play those games, and he doesn't worry about the wins and the losses. He thinks that's important for our program, and he thinks that's important for our athletic department, for visibility, and I'm with it. I buy into that theory. But what is good for our basketball team, when you go play Oklahoma and play against Trae Young, or you go play against Kansas and play against those guys, and at Louisville, in past years we've played at Marquette and Iowa and all kinds of places, what that does early for your basketball team, in my opinion, is it's going to expose some weaknesses. Playing against a bigger school, bigger athletes, longer, stronger, maybe older. So then we can come back and practice and work on those weaknesses. And I think that's important because that can help down the road.
Your road schedule in the non-conference was, shall we say, uniquely challenging. Your first home game wasn't until late November. How did that happen, and how nuts was that non-conference travel schedule?
Well, the non-conference was a little bit crazy, and it was crazier this year than other years. It's usually very manageable. What happened to us this year, and this is no one's fault, it's just kind of the way it worked, was we play at Baxter Arena, and it's a wonderful arena. Our hockey team plays there, but we hosted the United States Olympic Curling Championships, and it tied up our arena for all of our programs, for our hockey team, for us, for women's basketball, for about 13 or 14 days. So what that did was that put us on the road probably a little bit more this year than we've ever done. Did it maybe hurt our young team a little bit? Well, yeah, maybe a little bit, but we learned so much from it. I think we're stronger for it, and I think we'll be better for it here down the stretch for sure. But that's one of the reasons we probably spent more time on the road this year than years past.
Now, conversely, you've got a ton of space in the second half of the season in between games, like this stretch coming up here. Do you like having that space in the conference schedule late in the season?
Well, you know what? It's funny, Matt, because it probably fits us perfect right now. We've just gotten one or two guys back. We've lost some guys. We've had a crazy year of injuries.
Yeah.
I've been doing this for 30 years. It's probably the most injuries that I've ever dealt with, for sure, as a head coach, and maybe even as an assistant coach. We've had more guys coming and going than we've ever had. So it's been hard for us this year with our youth, as talented as we are, to develop some consistency along the way. It's just been difficult to do that, and that's nobody's fault. So I think this time of year right now, when we want to play our best in February, this little break in the action is probably the best thing for us, because we've finally got some guys back. We can have 6 or 7 consecutive days of practice, which we haven't had since before the season, and I think that would be nothing but beneficial for us in February, leading to the conference championships up in Sioux Falls in March.
Absolutely, and you guys drew very, very well that there in the last season, and that's got to be a big thing for the guys to be able to play just a couple of hours from home and to be able to get a bunch of fans to come out and support.
Well, it was great. Our fan support was great the first night, and then it got bigger the next night, and it got bigger the next night. So it's not that far. Our fan support was wonderful. We went up there. They had student buses going up. We had booster buses going up. They had, the pregame parties up there. So it was a great situation, and our guys really not only enjoyed the experience, but they really appreciated all the support that they had to go up there, whether it be students, whether it be fans, boosters. There was a big gathering up there. So they appreciated all of that. It's not that far. It's a good thing for us. It's a situation where if we can make a little bit of a push, or hopefully we can make a run again once we get back up there.
It's a fun time in general to be around Omaha athletics right now. Derrin, Hansen, a lot of cool promotions going on, especially when you come back. You've got the Summit Food Fight doubleheader February 10th against Fort Wayne, and on the same night, it's 90s night, which I hear is going to be incredible. First, it's great to be involved in the Summit Food Fight again, raising canned goods for donations to the community, bringing in non-perishable food items to the game. That's a big deal, as always, in the Summit League schools.
Oh, yeah, well, no doubt about that. And we're very proud and to be a part of that. To be able to give back to the community, I think, is one of the big things that's important in collegiate athletics. And to be in a great community like Omaha, to be able to give back, to be able to do that, to be able to showcase that, to be able to advertise that, and let people know not only what we're trying to accomplish, but yet those are the things that are out there to help people that are in more need than what we are. So hopefully it brings a light to a situation that we can help, but even a greater cause, someone else can maybe go and donate away from our basketball program, and that helps everybody in our community, and that's what we're trying to do.
And the hockey team has a ton of energy around it right now, too. But first, all right, that 90s night. I've been hearing a bit about this. I've got some inside information, Derrin. I hear this is going to be one of the best promotions going on. This is one of my favorites anywhere. There's going to be taste testings of the fine drink called Surge, which was a big hit in the 90s. I don't know what you think about that necessarily during the games, or is this a video recorded thing?
You know what? I've heard a little bit about them. I don't know much about the 90s night right now. I do remember Surge. It was full of sugar. I do remember that.
Oh, yeah.
I do remember Beanie Babies out of the 90s. I think
yes.
I do remember that. Other than that, maybe the 90s was a bit of a blur. I was in my early to mid-20s, so I'm not sure what was going on exactly in the 90s. But
besides coaching basketball.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But the promotions are going to be great. Our people here do a really good job with that stuff, so we're happy with all of that. And I'd be a little more familiar with the 80s. I'm dating myself here a little bit, but I think the 90s will be a lot of fun because it doesn't matter if it's the 80s or the 90s. Our guys don't know anything about them, so whatever they say is going to be funny because they don't know what was going on because they weren't even born yet.
Yeah, apparently very few of the players knew what Beanie Babies were. Apparently only one player knew, and I think it was one of the seniors, and he said, it's because my sister used to collect them. That's it. Oh. That's the only way that he knew.
Yeah, well, there you go. Well,
that's incredible.
I was youngest, so I was already past that, so I was in the Beanie Baby stage, but I know it's going to be a fun night. And our fans always enjoy the things that they have on the videos and the big screen. So our people do a good job with that. So I hope I get to see those on Twitter after the basketball game.
There's just so much energy around this Omaha program right now. Again, with the hockey team in the NCHC, you've got the men's and women's basketball programs, and Baxter's such a wonderful facility. Where does the program go from here, Derrin?
Well, hopefully still up. We've had a lot of success early. Our hockey team has been wonderful. Our women's basketball keeps growing. We had our run last year, and we've gotten third 2 years in a row, and so there's a lot of positive momentum and energy right now within our program. But I think we're still going forward because we're just still in our infancy stage. Even though we've been Division I now for 5 or 6 years, whatever it is, we've only been eligible for 2. So that means we've only had about a class or 2 where we've really recruited towards playing in the NCAA tournament. So we talked about the 4 years of the moratorium earlier that you couldn't get through. Well, we're trying to build through these 4 years. And I want to see where we can be after 4 solid recruiting classes that every kid who steps on our campus, they get to play in the NCAA tournament right away. And we're still building towards that. So a lot of great things have happened early, but there's still a lot yet in front of us, in my mind, for not only men's basketball, but for all of our programs at this level.
It's Derrin Hansen, the head coach of the Omaha Mavericks men's basketball team. Derrin, thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it.
Matt, I really appreciate the time.
We'll take a break, and when we come back, Faith Ihim from the Oral Roberts Golden Eagles stops by here on the Summit League podcast.
The madness returns to Sioux Falls with the 2018 Summit League Basketball Championships. See one of the nation's top college basketball tournaments March 3rd through the 6th at the Denny Sanford Premier Center. Tickets are on sale now at any Ticketmaster outlet. All session tickets starting at less than $10 per game. Support your team and find out who will punch their ticket to the big dance. Go to thesummitleague.org/tickets and claim your seats today. Brought to you by the generosity of our sponsors and the Sioux Falls Sports Authority.
Will your team reach the summit this season? The Summit League offers 19 sport championships, and you can get schedules, fan information, live stats, streaming, and more in one location at thesummitleague.org/championships. Need the latest updates? Follow each championship as it plays out on social media via Twitter @SummitChamps. And now, back to Matt Puckett on the Summit League podcast.
All right, the show rolls on. Episode number 2 of the Summit League podcast. And now on the phone line, Faith Ihim of the Oral Roberts Golden Eagles, their longtime standout star. Faith, welcome to the program. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You've been a real star player for Oral Roberts over the last several years, and recently you hit 1,000 points in your ORU career. Faith, what did that feel like to you to hit that milestone?
Well, funny thing, actually, Albert Owens from the men's team had hit his 1,000 point a couple games before mine, and I was talking about it, and someone was talking to me when is your 1,000 points? And I was like, I have no idea. I'm not really sure. And I'm like, I'm sure the stat people, they know all the information. And then 3 games or 2 games later, they announced it during the game. I had no idea. I was like, oh my gosh, it's my 1,000th point. I was like, we were just talking about this.
Yeah, it's weird because you ask different players about, do you pay attention to milestones? And there's some who are just like, oh yeah, I've got 978 points, and at my current average, I should hit this at about the 12-minute mark of the second half. And it's like, how do you know all that? And then there's other players where they're just like, I don't know. I could have 5 or 500. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm that player.
I feel like you're one of the most consistent players in the Summit League, Faith. Every night, 15 to 20 points, 7 to 10 rebounds, never in serious foul trouble. How have you developed that consistency over the years in your game?
I think it's probably just practice. I'm a senior now, and I've been through a lot of these scenarios, a lot of games, a lot of practice. I've been mentored by many of my coaches. So I think it's just experience, honestly.
Statistically, you've got real active hands in the post, 1.1 steals per game. Now, that's 5th in the league among players that don't play for Western Illinois or South Dakota because they take up 1 through 9 by themselves. As a forward, though, you generally don't get the same opportunities for steals as guards, opportunistic guards who can jump passing lanes just because you're on a different space on the floor. So that's a really good number for a forward. How do you work on that and develop that skill?
I think it's just anticipating where the ball's going to go, or sometimes a lot of the other teams, therefore, they play on the perimeter as well. So in that sense, I might be up on the ball line and be able to snatch a few balls every now and then.
And then on the glass, too, you've been tremendous. Tied for 2nd in the league at 2.3 offensive rebounds per game. What makes you a good rebounder? Is it positioning? Is it hustle? Is it timing? Or do you think it's a combination of things?
I think it's a combination of things, but it's something that I think happens subconsciously. I just see the ball and I go get it. So it's just I just get the ball. So I don't even know how I can really tell you how I do this. I don't wait for the ball to be in this position or something like that. I just see the ball and go get it.
Throughout your career, one of the big hallmarks of this ORU program has been beating crosstown rival Tulsa for the Mayor's Cup. You've won it every single year that you've played. What does that trophy mean to you as a local player, too, and how significant is that to the program, beating them every year?
I think it's pretty significant. It's really awesome that all 4 years in a row consecutively being a part of this program, being able to beat the crosstown rival, TU. We are both D1 schools, and we both are located in Tulsa. And so having people that have watched me play growing up in the Tulsa area, they can see us playing against another TU team, another team like TU, and being able to beat them multiple years in a row.
Faith Ihim, ORU Golden Eagles. Looking back in time a little bit, what led you to ORU as a recruit, and how has Oral Roberts lined up with your expectations as a basketball program and as a school?
Looking back, it was probably it being close to home, because at first I didn't want to go to a college that was close to home. Like most kids, they want to be on their own. They want to, do their own thing. And so at first it wasn't like where I was expecting to go. So it was kind of like curveball. But I ended up here, and my parents liked it because it was close to them. And my dad actually went to ORU back in the day, so this was his school as well. And so me coming to ORU and not really expecting to come to ORU, it's really exceeded my expectations and what I thought. And I honestly could say that there's no other place that I'd rather be. It's a great community here. The coaches are great. The professors are amazing. And it's a well-rounded school. And I'm really thankful that I actually came to the school.
Were you a big fan of the basketball program during your high school days? Because those were some tremendous teams back at ORU when you were a high school player too.
Yeah, a little bit, but not as much. And now that I'm looking back, I kind of wish I came to more games as a high school student.
In addition to your skills on the court, you're also a top-flight student. You're going to be attending Oral Roberts again, seeking a master's degree in accounting. You're going to be a CPA, right?
Yes, that's one of my goals, to be able to sit for the CPA and get my CPA certification.
How have you balanced all of this? Because that's a degree that takes up a lot of time, even in your undergrad studies, and yet you found a way to juggle so many things in your life right now. How do you find that balance?
Yes, I think a lot of people play a big part in it. My coaches, my professors, they're really flexible. They understand our busy schedule and all the things that I have on my plate. So they're really flexible, working with me and meeting with me after class hours to help me understand certain things. But just people like that have helped me juggle it all and make it more manageable.
And you're also up for the senior class award too. You've already worked as an intern for a big accounting firm in Tulsa. You've got a Fortune 500 company lined up to intern for in the spring too. How's this been for you, all coming together lately?
It's been pretty exciting. ORU has amazing opportunities for all the students here, and so I'm very thankful that I've been given the opportunity to be able to intern with this company. And so I'm really excited in what this internship could have for my future or for my career as well.
Faith Ihim, Oral Roberts, you also took a mission trip to Costa Rica, and you've been very dedicated to public service during your Golden Eagles career. What was that mission trip to Costa Rica like, and what led you there?
It was the summer of my freshman year coming into college, and it's actually the first time I'd ever been on a plane out of the country. So I was excited that first year in college, and we're going out of the country to Costa Rica. So I was excited, and it was a really great experience going out of the country, seeing other people and how they lived. We visited a couple orphanages, and we were able to talk to these children that didn't have any family like parents, or they were just there maybe with other friends or brothers and sisters, and just being able to see through all they've been through and all they're going through, just to see smiles on their faces and a lot of stuff like that, people being so happy despite where they might be, and might not have been the best situation, but just their happiness, it really touched me.
You, like I said, you've also been involved, Faith Ihim of the Oral Roberts Golden Eagles. You've also spent a lot of time in the local community, too, participating in a lot of events. What kind of stuff do you plan on doing in the future in that regard?
Probably I do like animals and dogs and stuff, and I've been trying to volunteer at the Tulsa SPCA that's in North Tulsa, and so I would like to be even more active in that area and help out a little bit more.
Faith, you've got a couple of local legends as coaches. Janae Volker and J.C. Bigham Bigham was the all-time assists leader at ORU. I remember watching them in a lot of good Summit League battles alongside Kevy Looper in the late 2000s and early 2010s. Kyron Stokes, another assistant on your team, was a solid contributor for the men's program, too. What kind of things have you picked up from them as recent players with a lot of success at this school, on and off the court?
I feel like having those coaches around, having that those people with all that background, it brings a lot of fire and fight to practices or games. They know what it takes to get where you want to be, and so it also brings. They also have some type of like experience that we haven't got to or we have been through, and they've been in our shoes, so they know what it's like. And so it's been very helpful for them, showing us or telling us what they did or what they went through back when they were playing, and it just makes things more relatable.
There's been a lot of good college basketball in Oklahoma, and in the last 10 years, of course, the Oklahoma City Thunder, now a big power in basketball. Now, I know on your ORU page it says that you're a big fan of Kevin Durant. Are you still, or did you stick with the Thunder after KD left?
It was very heartbreaking that KD left.
Yeah.
And I'm still a Kevin Durant fan, but I still stick with the Thunder as well. They're still my team.
So you're still with Russell Westbrook on that too?
Definitely.
Yeah. Who was your favorite basketball player growing up?
Yeah, let's see. Maybe Larry Bird I'll just go with Larry Bird.
Larry Bird, good choice. One superstar that you could bring to the Thunder besides Durant, that one's too easy. Who would it be?
Besides Durant.
Yeah, we're really throwing tough questions out there right now.
I know. We're kidding me with the tough questions. Okay. Besides Durant, bringing to the Thunder, maybe Kyrie.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah,
Him and Russ playing together.
Yeah.
That would be really interesting. I wonder what that would look like, those guys playing alongside each other.
I know. I think it'd be good, though.
Yeah. Looking back at your career, what do you remember about your first college game?
That was a long time ago. Let's see. I probably was nervous. And, high school basketball and college basketball it's a step up from high school basketball. So I was probably nervous, and probably things were happening so fast. I was like, wow.
And you were a starter most of your freshman year, too, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Off and on.
What about your first basket in college? Do you remember that?
I probably don't remember, but it was probably a layup or a shot that I didn't know I was open for, and I took it, something like that.
Yeah, you've had a lot of baskets between now and then, so you've been pretty busy.
Yeah.
What's your most memorable moment with the ORU basketball team?
Okay, so I think it was my sophomore year. We played in a postseason tournament, and we played in New Mexico. The team that we played, I believe, was New Mexico, and their gym was pretty tight, but they had a lot of fans. And so that game was a really close game, and they were kind of beating us, and then we were beating them, and it was just going back and forth. And the energy in the gym was just really intense. And we ended up beating them on their home court with all their fans, and it was just a really good feeling because the crowd was pretty wild. They were just yelling stuff and just saying all sorts of things. So to beat them, it was just like we did it. And that's a pretty memorable moment.
And there's a lot of gyms in the Summit League, too, where you go around and it's just a nutty environment any given week where you walk in and it's like, all right, there's nobody in this place who likes us very much right now. We're going to beat them anyway, right?
Yeah, all we got is each other.
Yeah. Do you think about getting into coaching after you're done playing Faith Ihim of the Oral Roberts Golden Eagles, or do you kind of focus on studies and you want to start venturing down that road?
I think I've thought about it, but I think I'm sticking with studies. I don't know if coaching is for me.
Sure. This weekend, you've got a young Fort Wayne team and a stacked Western Illinois squad that's hit a ton of threes in the last couple of weeks. What do you think about those games? Do you like getting that game now with Western? With them setting all these three-point records every night now, or would you rather have maybe gotten them a couple of weeks earlier?
I think now is a great time. I feel like they're a pretty challenging team to beat, and I think we're ready for the challenge.
This game is going to be at home, and in the last game, they really slowed down the tempo against you. Do you expect this to be a faster game this weekend?
I think it might be a faster game. I mean, we've already played them, so they've seen us before, and they may have another plan against us. But the pace might be picked up a little bit more than it was.
All right, it's Faith Ihim of the Oral Roberts Golden Eagles stopping by here on the Summit League podcast. Faith, thanks for the time. Appreciate you coming by today.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll take a break, and when we come back, it's Brandon Gilbeck of the Western Illinois Leathernecks men's basketball team right here on the Summit League podcast.
In its fourth decade, the Summit League continues its ascent through excellence in the classroom and success in the field of play. In cities big and small, at public and private universities, students across league institutions reach for the summit. From academic All-Americans to NCAA champions and nationally ranked teams, Summit League student-athletes achieve the pinnacle of success. The Summit League, where tomorrow's leaders reach the summit today.
The Summit League Basketball Championships celebrate their 10th season in Sioux Falls, March 3rd through the 6th. Be part of one of the nation's premier college basketball tournaments by ordering tickets today. Visit thesummitleague.org/tickets for more details and reserve your seat to witness the march to the summit. Now, let's get back to Matt Pocket and the Summit League podcast.
All right, another terrific show continues on. It is the Summit League podcast here at thesummitleague.org. Joining me on the phone line now, it is Brandon Gilbeck of the Western Illinois Leathernecks, the shot-blocking maestro in the Summit League right now. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good. Thanks for having me. This is great.
Absolutely. You are the block machine, my friend. We're going to talk a lot about tossing shots away from the hoop in the next few minutes. You average nearly 3 blocks a game. That's a silly number, but you've always been a great shot blocker. You've always had ridiculously high shot blocking numbers. That's just the norm for you now. How did you start developing that skill earlier on in your basketball life?
I think I've just always kind of had the instinct to go get that. I think a lot was used to play soccer, and I was a goalie, and I think that hand-eye coordination really kind of helped with that. Just the quick reaction. But yeah, the thing that not many people realize about shot blocking is it's not like how high you can jump, or it's really just about timing, which I think I'm starting to get down, especially this season.
Shelby Thurmond was a terrific shot blocker who played at Western in the early to mid-'90s. You passed him for the most blocks in a single season by one player in Western Illinois history in your sophomore season. You've got more career blocks than anybody else in school history. What do these records and accomplishments mean to you personally?
Oh, it's crazy to think about that. Shelby Thurmond, I remember walking into Western and looking at his stats, and it was, some of those numbers I thought were just unrealistic. And he still holds the record for, I think, most blocks in a game, which was 11 or 12. But
oh my.
Yeah, it's a lot of blocks.
Yeah.
I wish I could watch film on him, but yeah, no, it's definitely an accomplishment, something I'm proud of. But got to keep building off of that.
This league itself, the Summit League, has had a tremendous history of shot blockers, and even though your sophomore year was good for 8th on the list, only 3 guys, Kendrick Moore at Oral Roberts, Keith Benson, and the greatest shot blocker in the history of Division I, Keith Kloss, have more blocks in a season than you. Do you ever sit back and think about where you are in relation to some of the other great shot blockers in conference history?
Oh yeah, I saw some poll out on Twitter the other day, and I'm thinking I'm a great shot blocker, and then I saw that what's his name, Keith Kloss, he averaged 9 blocks a game or something, some crazy number.
Yeah.
Oh man, just looking at the stats, it really kind of puts you in your place. I'm good, but there's definitely been better, and something I can definitely work towards.
Do you feel that you kind of belong in the same conversation as those guys?
It's hard to say. I wish I could watch film on them. Obviously those guys are, Keith Kloss played in the NBA, I believe. but those numbers are. I think at some point, if I keep working hard, I feel like I could get to somewhere up there. You know, I never want to say I can't. You know.
By the way, Kloss had 5.87 blocks per game. I don't know if that's possible in 2K. I mean,
no, yeah, like, and the thing is, like, you think about it now with so many 3-point shots. I don't know how it was, you know, when he played, but you know, guys just aren't going into the paint like they used to. But it definitely like 5, 6 a game. Like it's still just a crazy number to think about.
I feel like there's a lot of pros, guys like Greg Monroe, who have kind of had okay careers in the NBA, but I feel like if they had been born maybe 15 years earlier, that they would have been monsters in the league, that they would have been super dominant guys in this league. Do you ever kind of feel that about – do you ever look back and wonder, man, how would I have done playing in a more, I guess, internal-focused game instead of all these three-pointers?
I've definitely thought about that, but you're right. Like those guys, like they miss their time a little bit. But yeah, no, it's tough, but I mean that's the game of basketball. You got to learn to adapt. You got to learn to, you know, change it up. But yeah, no, how would I do back then? It's tough. Those are some big guys back then. I would like to say that I could still hold my own, but it'd definitely be fun to think about like a post-focused kind of game. It'd be interesting.
You've certainly done well as a post scorer. You lead the league in field goal percentage right now. Do some of the attributes you have as a shot blocker help you in the blocks offensively too? I would say yes and no, I guess. Offensively, I know a lot of the time it's sometimes just finding yourself in the right position, you know, trying to find that open spot within the defense. But yeah, I mean, I'd say yes, because sometimes on offense it's a lot about instincts, and I think defense has a whole big part about that too. Brandon Gilbeck, Western Illinois, here on the Summit League podcast. You mentioned timing and reflexes. Do you think that's the best attribute for a shot blocker to have?
Oh, definitely. I mean, obviously, you know, height helps a little bit too, but definitely instincts. Like I said, for a shot blocker, you don't have to be the highest leaper in the gym. You know, I think I'm an example of that. Sure, I can get up a little bit, but definitely not the bounciest guy on the floor. Yet, you know, I still get the most blocks.
What do you think?
But yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
What was that? No, you're good.
I was going to ask, what do you think the most underrated part of your game is right now?
Underrated? I would definitely say the finishing part. You brought it up, but I know not many people do the field goal percentage. At one point I was like 70%. I think I've dropped down to low 60s, maybe high 50s. But yeah, that's one thing I'd say not many people realize.
What elements of your game do you want to work on in the next year and a half of your college career?
Well, I'd say one is avoiding silly mistakes. Like, you know, once a game or probably once every first half, you know, I'll get a silly foul, something that could have easily been preventable. I've been trying to work on that since my freshman year, but rebounding too, I think could definitely be better. And then obviously, you know, just the way the game's developing, you know, don't tell my head coach, but, you know, you need a jump shot. You need something to extend your range a little bit. And don't get me started on free throws. Got to work on that too.
You've got some Tim Duncan to your game, and I hear that you watched a lot of film on the Big Fundamental to work on your game early on. What kind of stuff did you pick up by watching Duncan play?
Oh, yeah, Duncan, easily one of my favorite players growing up. I would say one is just, yeah, like you said, he's the big fundamental, you know. He doesn't have, like, the flashy moves, but, like, just how footwork is huge in the post. And I think he's a great example of just, you know, good footwork, you know, and he uses the glass all the time. You know, guys want to get that swish, but, you know, I know the bank shot's not the prettiest all the time, but, hey, I mean, it's a work of art.
2 points is 2 points. He also had that really smooth jump hook, too, from just a couple of feet out. I mean, that was beautiful.
Yeah. That's one move, like the jump hook, especially Tim Duncan's. Like, you can't stop it, especially once you get into the middle of the lane. And, that's something that I know I try to work on a lot, but it seems like it's kind of dying out. I don't know. But it's definitely something it's a great move and one that I always watch film on.
I think we're starting to see a little bit more of the turnaround jumper kind of replacing that, but it's a little bit more high risk, too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Go on.
No, go ahead.
I mean, yeah, the jump hook, it doesn't look as cool as a Michael Jordan fadeaway jumper, but I mean, the number one leading scorer in the NBA, and it's the hook. I mean, the sky hook's completely gone now, but the hook shot's just something I wish more people worked on.
Who are some of the other guys that you've modeled your game after?
I was talking to my coach the other day. It's funny. That's just I love watching film on old Olajuwon, the big man of the old time. One guy that I modeled, he was my coach for my freshman year, but Mark Vershaw, he was a legendary Badger. I try to watch some of his game because, it's nothing you can do against those good post moves.
Speaking of those Badgers, you're from Spring Green, Wisconsin. It's a pretty small town. What's it like out there?
Oh, it's small. Yeah, there's not a whole. It's a couple miles it's like 45 minutes out of Madison, but there's nothing for me personally. There's nothing better than a small town. And the great thing is, people think Spring Green, a town of 1,400 now, moving up in the world. Hey,
yeah,
but it's great. We're right on the river. We got everything we need out there.
Yeah, I live in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan now. It's still like 10 times the size of Spring Green, but it's kind of a smaller town too. It's got some smaller areas around it. A lot of outdoors stuff up here in the UP, hunting, fishing, that kind of thing. Are you a big outdoors guy, or do you kind of prefer to stay inside a little bit and a bit of a gamer?
No, love being outdoors.
Yeah.
I haven't really tried the hunting stuff yet. I want to get into it, but my parents were never big hunters. But fishing, I can fish all day. My coach, wants me to stay in the gym, but every now and then you got to try to get out there.
What are some of your favorite fishing spots? Even I don't know if there's any out there by Macomb, or do you always like to get back and fish where you're from?
Oh yeah, there's a couple of fishing spots here around Macomb, but definitely, I'll always be going back home if I had to. Just love because we're right on the Mississippi River, on the Wisconsin River too, and the backwaters of those rivers are just they're great.
Yeah. Brandon Gilbeck of Western Illinois here on the Summit League podcast. Brandon, now I hear the one indoorsy thing, I guess, well, besides basketball, that you're really into. I hear you're really into Star Wars. Is that right?
Yeah. It's definitely a big Star Wars fan. I know we've had a couple those long bus rides. I know me and Scott love to just go on and on about Star Wars series and stuff. Yeah.
So I've got to ask. This is the question sweeping the nation, my friend. The new movie, what'd you think?
The new movie?
Yeah.
I liked it. I actually liked it. I know some people were not a fan. I do think there's a couple kind of parts that I had to scratch my head about, but no, I'm a fan of the new Star Wars movie.
Yeah. What's your favorite one so far?
Favorite one?
Yeah. I'm guessing it's not episode 1.
No.
Didn't think so. That's a pretty rare answer.
Yeah, no, those kind of got a little sketchy there, but I'm a big fan of the classics, the originals. Those are definitely probably my favorites.
Now, did you ever get into Star Trek at all, or is this pretty much just one-way traffic, Star Wars all the way, forget USS Enterprise and all that?
Oh, no, strictly Star Wars.
Okay.
Star Trek, that's no. Come on now.
Never a chance, huh?
Never a chance.
No kidding. Right now, go ahead.
Are you a big Star Trek fan?
Yeah,
or?
I like them both. I'll say that.
Like them both?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did not like the last Star Trek. I like the new Star Wars more than I like the last Star Trek, though. Put it that way.
Okay.
So, speaking of Star Wars, though, right now that women's basketball program over at Western Illinois, they've been blowing up planets from deep right now. They're setting 3-point records every single night. What's it like watching that program succeed over the last couple of years and seeing them hit 700 threes this week?
Oh, it's great. I think it's great for Macomb. It's kind of a small town, but I mean, it gets people into the gym when you see those things going on. I think even the men's basketball team has seen kind of like an attendance rise because of them. But for them to basically, you see turn around a program, and now they're one of the best in the conference. It's definitely great to see. And that 3-ball, man, they, like you said, they've been killing it.
Yeah, I mean, they've pretty much treated everybody else around them like Alderaan at this point. I mean, it has not been pretty to be defending against that team right now. Sioux Falls is coming up in a couple of weeks for you guys, but before then, you've got some business left to take care of in the conference schedule. What do you like the most about the tournament? You've been there a couple of times. What do you like about Sioux Falls?
Well, I think one, it just kind of brings all the teams together, and you kind of get like that old, I don't know, for me, like it's kind of that high school feel, like the old tournaments, like it's just, and plus the fans, like there are so many fans there, and it's just a great environment.
Well, what kind of stuff do you generally do when you're around town in Sioux Falls, South Dakota? Because you've got a few days there where you get to hang out, and of course, there's a ton of basketball going on.
Yeah, I think, really, I know as a fan, there's a couple of things to do, but as a basketball player, as soon as the whole bus ride up to South Dakota, it's strictly business. We don't really get to do much outside of basketball. Because we're focused. You gotta. We're there. Sure to enjoy Sioux Falls, but obviously there's a bigger goal in mind.
Upcoming games, speaking of taking care of business, Brandon Gilbeck of Western Illinois here on the Summit League podcast. South Dakota, and then what should be a fun one, I think, against Oral Roberts. What do you think about those matchups?
Oh, I think it's great. Obviously South Dakota they're a great opponent. And the first time we played them, super competitive. And it should be a fun one, And then Oral Roberts, great team. Definitely you would call like the surprise, I guess. At least as far as like the conference rankings and stuff. We always knew they were a great team. But it's, like you said, still got to take care of business, and we're going to try our best.
Yeah, and then things wind down. Well, not really wind down, but they keep going pretty steady over the next month, and then you get into one of the most wonderful times of the year, and that's the college basketball postseason. Brandon Gilbeck of Western Illinois, thanks for the time. Appreciate it, my friend, and good luck to you guys the rest of the way.
Yes, thank you, and thanks for having me. This is great. I'm going to have to tune in some more.
Absolutely. Every other Wednesday for the next couple of weeks. Brandon Gilbeck here on the Summit League podcast. We'll wrap the show in just a moment.
The madness returns to Sioux Falls with the 2018 Summit League Basketball Championships. See one of the nation's top college basketball tournaments March 3rd through the 6th at the Denny Sanford Premier Center. Tickets are on sale now at any Ticketmaster outlet. All session tickets starting at less than $10 per game. Support your team and find out who will punch their ticket to the big dance. Go to thesummitleague.org/tickets and claim your seats today. Brought to you by the generosity of our sponsors and the Sioux Falls Sports Authority.
The march to the summit is on. Follow exciting Summit League men's and women's basketball action as teams race towards the championship and a trip to the big dance. Go to thesummitleague.org or follow on Twitter @SummitHoops to stay up to date all season long. Now, let's get back to Matt Pocket and the Summit League podcast.
All right, boys and girls, we're wrapping up episode number 2. A big boatload of games coming up this week. Women's hoops, some really exciting games. South Dakota State and North Dakota State squaring off on Thursday. Western Illinois battles South Dakota. That's going to be a good one. Fort Wayne heads to ORU Saturday. NDSU plays South Dakota. Omaha hosting SDSU. And Western Illinois plays Oral Roberts. Then on Sunday, Fort Wayne meets Denver. Men's hoops. ORU plays Fort Wayne on Thursday. South Dakota is at Western Illinois, and a huge game. North Dakota State plays South Dakota State. Saturday, Denver takes on Fort Wayne. South Dakota plays North Dakota State in another biggie, and Oral Roberts is at Western Illinois. Again, like we talked about at the top of the show, the Summit Food Fight coming up. It's the 10th annual Summit Food Fight. Over the last 9 years, we've raised nearly 600,000 pounds of food together. So we have made a big impact with the Summit Food Fight in our communities. What you need to do is bring non-perishable food items to donate at these games or give online at yougivegoods.com. Search the Summit League and support your school. Our upcoming platter of games, it's a delicious one. Thursday's North Dakota State at South Dakota State game, then a real feast. On Saturday, the 3rd of February in men's hoops, the Coyotes at NDSU, plus Oral Roberts at Western Illinois, and the women's game between North Dakota State and South Dakota. Then on February 10th, a doubleheader with Fort Wayne at Omaha, the women's game and the men's game. Get out there. Go watch some top-flight college basketball and help fight hunger right here in our communities. Again, you can give online at yougivegoods.com. Search the Summit League and support your school. Or you can support your school, watch some great college basketball games by going to these games and supporting your school in the big Summit Food Fight going on right now. All right. That's it. Episode 2. In the can. Thanks to the other voices that you hear on the show. Mark St. Angelo, Operations Director for Sovereign Communications, Sault Ste. Marie. Scott Cook, DJ for Yes FM and Rock 101 here in the Sioux. Producers, Kaylee Ryan, Brian Campbell at the Summit League. Executive Producers, Summit League Director of Communications, Greg Meddy. Assistant Commissioner for Communications, Dave Brower. Our guests this week, Bryson Scott, Fort Wayne Mastodons. Maren Walseth, North Dakota State Bison. Derrin Hansen, Omaha Mavericks. Faith Ihim, Oral Roberts Golden Eagles, and Brandon Gilbeck, Western Illinois Leathernecks. I'm Matt Pocket. I'm getting out of here for now. I'll see you back here on the 14th for episode 3 of the Summit League podcast. Until then, I'm out. See you on Twitter.
Join us every 2 weeks for a new episode of the Summit League podcast at thesummitleague.org. Follow the league all season long on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at The Summit League. And follow Matt on Twitter and Facebook at Corner Pocket 422.